Hello, my little art friends. Today, Neoclassicism. We're going to take a look at this. It's the next thing after the Baroque period. Matter of fact, it was a reaction to the Baroque period, and it was a desire to return to purity of the ancient Roman and Greek arts. So you're going to see some stuff that looks like it might be from Roman, ancient, or Greek arts. Now, we're going to study one artist today, and his name is David. Actually, it's pronounced David. You have to say David, so you're cool when you say it. And he was a French painter, and I'm going to go to the whole story, but basically he's going to get caught up in the French Revolution. So here he is. Look at him. He's looking at you. We're looking at him. Let's see some of his art. Here's the first one we're going to look at here, this oath. There's three brothers there, and they're swearing to defeat their enemies of Rome. They're going to die for Rome. It's actually a symbolism of the French Revolution. Can you get it? And the sisters there, they're having trouble because like one of them likes a guy from the other camp, and these guys are going to go kill her boyfriend. And so it's a very complex story. And that brings us to the point about what's going on with David's art and neoclassical. There's four things you need to know if you're looking at a painting to determine if it's a neoclassical painting. Here they are. Number one, the background is de-emphasized. See, there's not a lot going on in the background. Everything's happening in the foreground. Two, it's not the importance of the painting, but it's the importance of the story behind it. You see, this is a complex story here. Three, there's only hard details. There's no whiskey brushstrokes. This isn't a painting by Monet or anything like this. This is hard details, no whiskey brushstrokes. And four, it depicts a morally complex story. Now let's look at some paintings in the neoclassical style and see if they match those four things. Here's one right here. Well, is the background de-emphasized? Yeah, it's basically a wall. Is the story important? Yeah, it looks like everything in the foreground's happening. There's some story. The guy's like, hey, I'm going to drink this. Is there whiskey brushstrokes? No, it's pretty clean, pretty tight. And is it a morally complex story? Well, that's Socrates. He's going to drink that hemlock and he's going to die and everyone's freaking out about it. That's a morally complex story. So you can tell this is definitely neoclassical. Here's another one. Same thing. Background, meh. Whiskey brushstrokes, meh. Morally complex story. And is the story important? Well, there's some guy over there with some legs hanging out. And he's got blood on him. Obviously, someone died. And the lady's like, oh, this is horrible. It's definitely a morally complex story. All right, next painting up. This is Death of Marat. Now, Marat was actually a friend of David's, and they were both all ready for the revolution, right? But he liked to hide out in the sewers because he didn't want to get caught from the police because he was for the revolution. So he'd take these long baths, and he'd write letters when he was in the bathtub. Well, anyway, this girl, Charlotte, comes in, and she pretended like, hey, I'm going to hang out with you, and I want to be your friend because I'm into the revolution too. But really, she was a counter-revolutionary. And when she saw him in the bathtub, she took out a knife and she stabbed him. It's a morally complex story, but it's actually a true story. And also, if you look at the painting, you might notice that it's very possible that he looked at Michelangelo's Pietà to steal the pose. We don't know. Anyway, in the meantime, there was a war that broke out. A good friend of David's was captured and thrown in jail. Marie Antoinette got guillotined, and then David was arrested and placed in prison. That's crazy. David was in jail. And then David's wife divorced him because he entered politics, and she was like, I got to divorce you. So he goes to jail. While he's there, he's in jail. He paints this picture as a tribute to his wife. And she's like, oh, that's so sweet. So she remarries him. And then Napoleon becomes in charge. That's crazy. And that painting caught the eye of Napoleon. And so David became Napoleon's head artist. He was like the artist that painted this painting of Napoleon, which you've probably seen. If you've ever seen a painting of Napoleon, it's by David. That's crazy. Here's another painting by David of Napoleon. It's called Napoleon Crossing the Alps, and it's kind of cool. Sometimes it's also called the Crossing of the St. Bernard Pass, but most people call it Napoleon Crossing the Alps by David, and it's Napoleon on a white steed crossing the Alps, and there's some people in the background, and of course, the only thing about it is Napoleon never crossed the Alps on a white steed because the steed really couldn't have made it across the Alps. You know what he rode on? He rode on a donkey. But you know what? David wasn't going to paint Napoleon on a donkey because that would just be embarrassing. He'd probably get his head chopped off. So he did this instead. And it's become a very famous painting, and you'll see it all the time. That's neoclassical, and that's David, and that's the end of our video.